In this video, I'm going to show you how to super clean your dryer and your dryer vents. And we're going to do it right now. Dryer maintenance is something that I have personally been putting off, and I know a lot of other people do the same thing. You get busy, you remodel your entire house, whatever the case, and you put it off. But it's really important. So recently, I just reattached all of my dryer vents, and I made sure that all of these seams were nice and taped up, and I added a strap here so that the pipe wouldn't move around and disconnect. And I know that I have a nice, solid, sealed up vent for my dryer, but now I want to clean it like crazy. I'm going to start with the most basic thing that you could do and go to, I guess, the most extreme thing that you could do to clean it. And it's pretty important for two reasons. Because of the dryer lint. The dryer lint can clog up and in some cases definitely affect the performance of your dryer, but in extreme cases, it can just break your dryer. If that exhaust is blocked up, it will also be dangerous. And let me show you why. So on my dryer, the lint trap is actually in here when you open the door. Some of them will be up top, but mine is right here. And as it says right here, clean filter after each use. This is a regular load of laundry. And you can see if you don't clean this after every use, this is going to build up really quick. So I'm going to take this off. So if you have this dryer lint all built up in your dryer and in your vents, one little spark can get that to just go up in flames. And this is not to scare you at all, but it's to show you how flammable this stuff is. So obviously, you don't want that built up anywhere in your house. And that's another reason I sealed up the vents, was so that it didn't just blow into my crawl space and in my basement. And it can also clog up your furnace. Has an intake, it can clog that up and just cause all kinds of issues. So that's why we're cleaning it out today. First step, I'm gonna unplug the dryer. Safety first. Make sure you clean this every single time. And I'm gonna clean this up a little more. Have some lint stuck here. A good place to start is if you hold this open, you can see there's a lot of lint stuck in here. And then if you look even further down, you can see that there's a ton sitting on the bottom there. If you have a vacuum with a long attachment like this, you can try sneaking it in there and getting all that built up lint out of there. But I'm going to use something else. I'm going to use this attachment that I found online. I'll leave a link to all of the stuff that I use in this video in the description. And I'm not sponsored by any of the products, by the way, but this thing looks like it's going to do a good job. So I'm going to use this vacuum. I cleaned it out so we can see how much lint I actually get, and it'll fit in here. This will also fit a regular size shop vac and any kind of vacuum that you might have. You should be able to make it work. So let's hook this up and start getting that lint out of there. Here's something else I'm gonna use. I'm gonna use this first, actually. This is a little broom. It looks like a chimney sweeper. And I'm just gonna go in here and kind of loosen up all this lint. And that way I can suck it out with the vacuum. Now this is gonna be a little tricky, just because this door, and it's really tight. This is nice and long. It can get around these corners here. Just loosen all that up, turn the vacuum on and clean it up. All right, that actually got a lot out of here. Let's go a step further though. So that did a pretty good job. You could do that with just the stuff you have in your house probably, or you could get that adapter. But what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take this entire piece out so I can clean it better. On the inside, there's a Phillips screw right here, and right here. We're going to take those out. Just don't lose those screws. Oh, quarter. We're already making money. Now I pull it out this way. Now I'm just going to leave this here. You can see right here there's a couple connectors. I'm just not going to disconnect those. This is just on mine. Yours might be different. But I can pull this out a little bit like that, and I'll be able to clean up all of this lint in here. And then this piece I'm going to grab and pull straight up. So I got to pull it out a little bit like this. And then I can pull that up. Now you can see on here you have all this lint and dirt. We have some change. 26 cents so far. Red Bull tab, more dirt. And now I have a lot more access to the inside here to scrape this wall of all that lint and suck it all out with the vacuum. All right, let's start cleaning. I'm actually going to reach right in here. That's not a surprise. Bobby pin. Find those all over the house. I'm just going to put everything in this vacuum except for this change. Put that in my piggy bank before I start going crazy with the vacuum. I'm going to make sure these screws are accounted for so I don't suck them up. Tags. All right. Now I'll try and get in here and really scrape that back wall, get all that loose lint off here. Careful because some of these edges might be sharp, by the way. Yeah, this brush definitely works good to loosen this stuff up. Okay, suck it up. Using a small flathead to get spots like that are really stuck on. And that's looking pretty clean. Good. I tried to get in here too in that little crease right there. Got as much of that as I could. And these two pieces. And now we can reinstall them. Now these are going to go back in the same way they came out. And I clip right back under this metal. There we go. Just take note as you're removing this stuff, how they go back in. And on some dryers, this whole piece comes right out and there's a long piece attached to this. Just depends on what kind of dryer you have. Make sure those wires don't get pinched. I can reinstall that. Oh, gotta make sure this is it down like this. The door gets stopped right here. And that was having trouble staying closed before. I cleaned all this up, got all the stuff out of there, so we don't have an issue. I can put those screws back in. Here's something you could use to clean this stuff, especially this caked on stuff, like right here. It's an old toothbrush. Just don't go putting it back in the toothbrush holder. If you really wanted to, you can get some cleaner and really clean this up. This stuff is a little caked on there. I'll just loosen it up with my flathead screwdriver. There we go. Scrape it a little bit. That'll do the same thing as if we were to use some cleaner. As long as it comes off. So, put the filter back in, we can move on. Now I'm going to pull the dryer out. It depends on how your vent is. Just be careful, don't pull it out too far and break something. Mine is pretty flexible. And then I'm going to take the hose off the back. On mine, I just have this hose clamp that I can loosen up. I can take this hose right off, just like that. Now we're gonna spin the dryer around just so you can see. We're gonna do some stuff on the back side here. So on the back of the dryer, if your lint trap is on the top, you might have a large tube kind of thing that goes like this, and you can take screws off and pull that whole thing off, and you're probably gonna find a bunch of lint in there that you can clean out. But with this style dryer, the only place that the lint is going to be is right at the bottom here, and you can see that there is a little bit in there, and if you look all the way back, it's a straight shot to the front of the dryer. So I can just clean this out, and the entire dryer should be clean. I can see where the lint is built up, so I can just use this to get it, and then suck it out with the vacuum. Now I'm going to clean out the exhaust pipe. So this goes right out through my crawl space, and I've seen people clean this a couple different ways. One is you use like a leaf blower and you put it in the bottom here and just blow out as much as you can. Now that is going to be stronger, the air moving with a leaf blower, I would assume, than a dryer. But as you saw, that lint can get really stuck to things, and I'm sure that there's some buildup in here. I think these are probably between 10 and 20 years old, and I haven't cleaned them at all. So we'll see how bad they are, I'm not sure. But on the bottom here, you can see, for the purposes of this video, I put a little strap here, and that might not be a bad idea if your vent is loose, just to keep it in place. What I'm gonna use is this little device right here. This is like a brush made for 4-inch ductwork. It's gonna go right in here, and this comes in different lengths. So this one's a 30-footer. It has several of these lengths that you just add as you go. You put the other end on a drill, and this will go around and scrape the sides of the vents. Hopefully, I'm gonna be able to get around. This is very flexible. I'll be able to get around all these. I think there's two 90-degree elbows. And I've never used one of these. I've seen them in action, and I'm kind of excited to use it. So what I've done is I've taken this little paint bucket, and you can actually buy a kit that comes with a little adapter, but I'm gonna put this right in here, and then I'm gonna put this, take this hose clamp off, put this right here, and then I can attach my hose right to this hole. So I'll work from the inside, work all the way out, and as I clean this, the vacuum should suck out all the lint that's in there. And you should be able to see it because this is clear. So before we do that, I want to see if we can get a look at the inside so we can see what it looks like before, and then we can see what it looks like after. So there's a big pile right there. So this is where the dryer vent comes out on the outside. And if you take a look up in here, you can see that this flap is wide open, and that's not ideal. One way to fix that, or to help that situation, would be to put something like this on here, sometimes referred to as a squirrel cage. The only thing about that is these are notorious for clogging up as well. So every now and again, take it off, clean it out if you do have one of those. But after I'm done cleaning out this pipe, I'm gonna try and clean all that out so that flap closes. And I might actually put this on. Maybe that'll help. Because I don't know if those clumps in there are caused by mice or if they're just buildup. So they could definitely get in there. Anyways, let's take a look. Oh yeah, whole bunch right there. This definitely needs to be cleaned. Okay, well, obviously this is pretty clogged up, a lot more clogged up than I thought, so let's clean it out. This little bit right here goes to the drill. I'll use that so I don't damage these right here. I suppose you could do that, but it should be easy enough to do that and then take it off. And as I do this, so I'm gonna put this in, this like this. The vacuum will go here. And then as I do this, I'm actually gonna wrap electrical tape around these pieces, because as you can imagine, I don't want to lose them in the pipe and have to take it apart and retrieve them. So another thing is to make sure you're going clockwise with the drill, because otherwise you could unscrew these going the other way. So electrical tape, we'll start with 2 of these. And I'm going to leave a little tab on the electrical tape so it'll make it easy to take apart. And I'll turn the vacuum on, start going, and just keep adding pieces until I get pretty much to the outside. You will feel some resistance on the 90s in tight spots like that, but once you hit outside, you should be able to feel it. I don't think I'll be able to get through that vent out there, so I should be able to tell. If not, we'll jump out there and take a look. But here we go. Turn the vacuum on and start cleaning. Oh boy. Already a bunch right there. That was a big clump that came out of there already. Wonder if that big one up there just fell when I pulled the camera out. I'm I'm gonna pull this back out a little bit to see if I can get past that 90 to see if I can drop some of that lint down in here. Otherwise, I think I'm just pushing it and letting it sit there. I think a lot is gonna come back out when we pull it down. So I'll start to see if I can get some clumps down. Definitely getting a lot of lint out of there. I can see it through that. I'm glad this is clear. Okay. I don't know if you noticed, but I am going kind of slow. At some points I'm working my way back and forth just to try and clean out as much as I can. Okay, so I'm at the end. There wasn't a ton of lint in the bucket out there. So I have a feeling as I pull this in, I'm gonna do the exact same thing, spinning clockwise and taking these off one by one and hoping to pull all that back. And I think I'm gonna pull a lot of lint through that vacuum. So these really tighten up in there. I'm gonna have to use pliers on some of them. There we go. Okay, back to business. There we go. Look at that. That's it. So we got some lint that missed the bucket. And before I go checking out, seeing how we did on the inside of the pipe, I'm gonna take a hooked pick and try and clean some of this lint here so I can get this door to actually close. Look at that, that lint's like frozen. The humidity hits it and it starts clumping. So that's what I wanna get out of there. Let's see. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I don't know if I'm gonna get that to shut. There's a lot of tension on that. The other thing is this is a good way for cold air to come into the house, you know. I think it's just so packed in there at the top. All right, after a lot of pulling this lint out of here, I finally got it. So it's closed now. So as the dryer goes, it'll lift open like this, and then it'll shut. That's how it's supposed to be. Awesome. Now I don't have to use that squirrel cage because I don't like those. They get all clogged up. And if you forget, then you got problems. So, good. Let's check out the inside of this pipe, see how we did. Okay, looking pretty clean there. That looks way cleaner. Let's see once we get up over this 90. There we go. All the way to the flapper. Cool. Before we reconnect this all together, I, just for fun, want to try to measure the airflow with an anemometer. I did this in a previous video where I resealed all the pipes, and I got a comment that said I should measure the airflow from the back of the dryer to get the max amount of airflow and see what it reads. And then I can test it outside to see before and after. Before it was reading about 7 meters per second. So after cleaning, we'll see if that has changed. And just out of curiosity, we can see what's coming out right from the back of the dryer. I hold this here. If I hold it that far away, it's about 7 to 7.5. But you'll see as I get closer, it's going to be hard to get a reading. So 8, I could go 1 meter per second at a time. That's 9, because that's restricting the airflow and pushing more through the fins. If I block it up completely, it's almost 11, or about 11. For the person that commented, there you go. Like I said, it was reading about 7 meters per second before it was cleaned. Let's see how it did after. We'll hook all this back up and check it out. It looks like about 8 meters per second. So improved about 1 meter per second or more. That's awesome. Okay, here's the big reveal. Let's see how much lint came out of the dryer and the vent. Yeah, pretty good amount. So this isn't even, the dryer's probably 2 years old. The pipe, like I said, maybe 10 or 20 years old. You may have a dryer and vents that haven't been cleaned in way longer than that. So if that's the case, I hope this video helps. If you want to see more videos like this, I have a ton on my channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely consider it for videos like this and a ton of home repair stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.